Very happy, merry, and blessed Christmas to everyone that's watching this video presentation. I'd like to begin my Christmas message by reading to you a little story that was given to us by the theologian and storyteller John Shea, and it's quoted in a book by Ronald Rolheiser, a contemporary spiritual writer. The book is called The Holy Longing. And this is called Sharon's Christmas Prayer. She was 5, sure of the facts, and recited them with slow solemnity, convinced every word was revelation. She said they were so poor, they had only peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to eat, and they went a long way from home without getting lost. The lady rode a donkey, the man walked, and the baby was inside the lady. They had to stay in a stable with an ox and an ass, but the 3 rich men found them because a star lighted the roof. Shepherds came, and you could pet the sheep but not feed them. Then the baby was born, and do you know who he was? Her quarter eyes inflated to silver dollars. The baby was God! And she jumped in the air, whirled around, dove into the sofa, and buried her head under the cushion, which is the only proper response to the good news of the Incarnation. Wow, what a wonderful story. Such unbounded joy in that little girl whose name was Sharon. And yet it's difficult for us, for you and me, isn't it, to feel such unbounded joy as deeply as we believe in Christmas and celebrate Christmas. Why is that? Well, some of it is we're adults, we're sophisticated, we're a little reluctant to show that kind of emotion. But there's another level to it as well. You know, just over the past few months, I've met so many people that are experiencing a great deal of pain and suffering. I know a young woman who's going through a very difficult divorce situation with a husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, who's been very difficult on her. I know a mother of a son who is facing a jail sentence. I've met people with relatives suffering from Alzheimer's, cancers, and other sicknesses, and countless people facing unemployment and other financial effects of this crisis that our country is in for the past year and a half or so. And when things like that happen, we start to think that, well, it's Christmas, but it won't be any kind of Christmas for me. It won't be any kind of a Christmas because I have all of this sorrow. And it is difficult to jump from such pain and sorrow to the unbounded joy of that little girl. We also have difficulty doing that because we're bombarded with messages from the media that tell us it's the holidays. And even if they admit it's Christmas, they show us an artificial, plastic, perfect world. We see commercials where it's snowing, but only a couple of inches and never with wind and slush and uncomfortableness. People consume alcohol, but nobody gets drunk. Families laugh and come together, and we think to ourselves, gee, I wish my family could be like that. I wish I could have the Christmas around the fireplace that I see in those ads and in those commercials. And of course, we're missing the point. If we listen to the Christmas story closely, we realize that in that story, Jesus is born in a stable, in a manger. He's born in the stable and in the manger because Mary and Joseph could find no room at an inn or in any other home as they were traveling to Bethlehem. That they too suffered loneliness, sorrow, and anguish as they waited to celebrate the birth of their child. Now, what can we learn from that? I think we can learn that the manger that we can make for Jesus today is to open to him our own pain, our own sorrow, our own anguish, and our own suffering, and invite him to be born there, because that's where he wants to be born. It's not that he's not with us if things are going well and we're having a good time. He certainly is. But I think in a special way, he wants us to welcome him in to those sad and lonely and sorrowful places that we all have in our hearts. And once we do that, we begin to realize what Christmas is about. And we realize that even if we have no money for expensive gifts, that we can give a gift to someone else who is hurting or lonely or suffering, a gift of our compassion, a gift of our time, our gift of our love for them. That's the greatest gift that we can give at Christmas. I'll conclude this little Christmas message by telling you a story about another little girl. This little girl's name was Misha in Russia. Misha was met by some volunteers from the United States who were traveling through Russia in the mid-90s, shortly after the fall of the communist regime. And they were invited in to teach morality and ethics to different people. And they decided to use Bible stories. They weren't necessarily trying to convert people to Christianity, but just trying to get the values of these stories across to people. And they visited soldiers and police officers and firefighters and people like that, school teachers. But one day they ended up at an orphanage. And at the orphanage they decided to tell the Christmas story. And as they told the Christmas story, people were very moved. People hadn't heard that story before. And the little orphan children were invited to make a cardboard cutout replica of what they thought of this nativity story that was presented to them. And they did a good job, and as one of the teachers was going around, one of the American teachers, she noticed that one little girl, Misha, had made a very nice little representation of the nativity scene, of the Christmas crib, the creche. But in it she had not one, but two little babies. And so this instructor asked Misha, why are there two babies? And Misha began very seriously to recount the Christmas story. But when she came to the part where Mary places Jesus in the manger, she said that Jesus spoke to her in her heart and said, would you like to come into the manger with me? And she said, you know, I have no mama and no papa and no family. Could I come into the manger with you? And Jesus said, yes, I would love to have you come into the manger with me. But then she said, I have no gift to give you. And then she thought for a minute and said, it's cold, but I have some warmth. Would you like me to come in and warm you? And Jesus said to her, that would be the best gift that I ever received. You know, I think Misha, in her childlike simplicity, really got what the Christmas message is all about. And if you and I, no matter what the circumstances, really get that message, we too can jump for joy. May the good Lord give you peace, and once again, have a blessed, holy, and Merry Christmas.